No charges in a deadly shooting outside a bar and grill in Glenwood. Ruled self-defense. My name's Steven here with Armed Culture, bringing you news related to the self-defense from the Second Amendment perspective. Let's dive on in. So, Chicago, Illinois, Cook County prosecutors have declined to file charges in days after a man was killed outside a bar and grill restaurant in Chicago's south suburbs. Glenwood police announced on Friday that Sunday's February 23rd's deadly shooting at Chug a Rug Pub and Grill at the 18,400 block of South Halsted Street was a result of self-defense, following the authorities called a thorough investigation. Glenwood police officials say the parking lot dispute sparked the armed confrontation. None of the people involved knew each other, and there was no contact or conflicts between any of the parties involved before the incident, Glenwood police said in the news press release. The concealed carry license holder's gun was legally owned, police said. I mean, I get it. These states want to kind of control whether or not you're allowed to own a firearm, including, Illinois is notorious for such, but of course his gun's legally owned. That's what the Second Amendment is for. But of course he's following all the laws, so we're good to go. Following Cook County's state attorney's officials' decision to not seek charges, the investigation is now closed, police said. Shots fired outside the restaurant. Glenwood police said officers were called to Chug-a-Lug Pub and Grill around 1:30 a.m. on February 23rd on reports of shots being fired outside the restaurant. It always happens in the wee hours of the morning or night, the late evening. After arriving, police found a 31-year-old man who was shot and later succumbed to his injuries. Here we can see where it happened. The Friday update, police officers recovered the victim's handgun at the scene. Police added the concealed carry license holder turned in their gun to the Glenwood police officials. So here we have a little glimpse of what may have resulted in what police presume to be a self-defense situation. So there was a concealed carry license holder who had his legal right to the firearm. And then this victim, they actually don't even mention his status of legality of the gun that he had, but they recovered a gun from him as well. And there was a dispute in the parking lot. When you're driving these heavy objects around at even slow speeds, tension can be high for some people. You want that spot, or you're trying to get out of this spot, or maybe there was a little bit of a bump or a rub. And of course, it's always best to handle this calmly and, just maybe exchange insurance if there was an accident and deal with it that way. But of course, some people just get a little too angry at some situations. And this other person, who they're calling the victim, had a handgun at the scene as well. So, of course, your mind can kind of go from one place to the other. I'm not saying this is what happened, but sometimes when people are upset about certain situations, they can possibly have brandished weapons. We've seen in other situations, like the road rage situation up in Juneau a little while back, where the teenager brandished an air pistol or an airsoft gun, and then unfortunately found out what the consequences of that would be. I can only imagine what happened in here. They don't necessarily get a whole lot into it, but the pub itself goes on to say that this was the first incident of this nature to occur at their establishment. In the days following the shooting, the Chug-a-Lug Pub and Grill spokesperson called the shooting an unfortunate in the sentiment shared to WGN News. Chug-a-Lug in Glenwood is deeply saddened to confirm that the isolated and tragic incident occurred in our parking lot early this morning. An altercation between two individuals in separate vehicles who were parking who were preparing to leave our establishment resulted in the death of a young male victim. And of course, they're going on to say it's a victim, even though, lo and behold, in the future, it was determined to be a self-defense situation. So I'm not sure whether or not victim is the proper term. We extend our sincerest condolence to the family and friends of the victim during this incredibly difficult time. Our hearts are out with them. Of course, you know, I do have sympathy for the family and the fact that somebody in their family did just die, but I hope they understand that maybe there's a little bit more than what meets the eye, you know? We acknowledge the unfortunate reality of violence is an issue that affects parts of the Southland region. While this incident occurred in our parking lot as patrons were leaving and was not a reflection of the atmosphere inside the Chug-a-Lug, we understand the broader context. We have always prioritized safety and the well-being of our patrons and staff. We have security measures in place, including security personnel and employ a strategic closing procedure to ensure safety and dispersal of our customers. This is the first incident of this nature to occur at our establishment. So it's great to hear that it's like typically it's pretty safe around there, but it also is great to highlight the fact that a prepared citizen, even, I mean, he was at a pub and grill. I imagine he's probably not supposed to have the gun there, though he could have had it in his car because he was in the car, so he could have locked it in a safe in the car. But it's good to see that a prepared citizen used his right to self-defense to possibly save his life in this situation, and that the police recognized that. Of course, they looked at security camera footage and determined that that was the case. So it just kind of goes to point that when you remain vigilant at all times, as I recommend you always do, you can always find those key moments that could change your life forever and possibly save your life. And this man, being prepared, saw what was happening. I imagine, based off the situation, an altercation over who was leaving or something like that, and defended his life when he saw what was a threat to his life. Of course, they didn't dive into it, probably because it's still, there's no charges, but I'm sure the information just hasn't come out yet. So maybe we'll find out more about this here in the near future, though being that oftentimes these self-defense cases are kind of just swept under the media rug past the first initial, like, concern of a shooting in our community. Oh my gosh, what happened? And then a few days later, they're like, it was a self-defense shooting, and they never talk about it again because they realize that they've already kind of stepped over the barrier by calling it a tragedy. Even though, of course, anybody losing their life is a tragedy, it would be great if they could highlight the possibility of it being a self-defense situation earlier without just putting all the blame on one person right off the bat. Of course, we have to understand that these situations happen from all angles. Sometimes it could be a self-defense shooting, sometimes it could not. I mean, there's other videos on this channel that we've covered that really, honestly, you don't know, but the person who committed the act is claiming such that it is self-defense. So we'll just see how those situations unfold, including this one. It's been ruled self-defense. And it's great to see that even in Chicago, police are able to see that these things happen and people do have the right to defend themselves. Get in those comments. Let me know what you thought of this situation. If you found value in this, if you could hit that like button, it helps me out a bunch. And if you want to see more news related to the Second Amendment from a self-defense perspective, hit subscribe to Armed Culture. My name's Steven, bringing you said stories, and I'll see you in the next video.